Let me give you a clear example. Say you're dealing with someone at work who's passive-aggressive, always subtly undermining you. Now sure, you can sit there stewing over it. You can replay every comment in your mind. You can wait for them to change or for someone else to notice and fix it. Or you can decide how you want to respond. You can document what's happening, address it directly, adjust your boundaries, protect your peace. That's what focusing on what you can control looks like in real time. It's active, it's intentional, it's grounded in your power, not theirs. And here's the thing. When you start living like this, people notice. Not because you're trying to control them, but because you're clearly in control of yourself. You become the calmest person in the room. You stop reacting to every wave because you're anchored. People feel that. It's magnetic, simply because it's rare. Now, does that mean you'll never get thrown off? Of course not. You're human. Things will still catch you off guard. But emotional discipline, what we just explored, paired with focus control, what we're discussing now, is how you return to center faster, stronger, and clearer. You'll still feel the weather, but it won't dictate your direction. And that's the entire point. Control isn't about creating a life without problems. It's about developing a mindset that can handle them. It's about trusting yourself, not because you believe nothing will go wrong, but because you know who you'll be when it does. So the next time you feel that urge to overthink, to obsess, to fix everything and everyone, pause. Ask yourself, is this mine to control? If it is, act with clarity. If it isn't, let it go without guilt. Let me tell you something most people misunderstand. Silence is not weakness. We live in a world that rewards noise. We're constantly told to speak up, clap back, have the last word. We associate silence with submission, with passivity, with losing. But flip that idea for a moment, because the truth is silence, when chosen intentionally, is one of the most powerful tools you'll ever learn to use. Silence isn't about saying nothing. It's about saying something later, something wiser, or sometimes saying nothing at all because not everything deserves your voice. There's a difference between silence out of fear and silence out of strategy. The first is avoidance. The second is strength. Think about the last time someone pushed your buttons, whether it was online, in a meeting, or at the dinner table. You felt that urge rise up, didn't you? That tightness in your chest, the instant mental draft of a comeback. You wanted to defend, explain, correct. That's the ego flaring up. It wants to prove something. But silence says, I don't owe you my energy just because you're demanding it. That is real power. Let's go a bit deeper. Psychologically, reactive communication is driven by the limbic system, the emotional center of the brain. It wants resolution right now. It wants relief immediately. But that kind of instant reaction often leads to regret. Silence, on the other hand, engages the executive functions of the prefrontal cortex. That's where emotional regulation lives. That's where long-term strategy is formed. When you choose silence in a moment of emotional intensity, you're doing something rare. You're overriding the need for immediate validation in favor of long-term stability. You're saying, I am not controlled by you. I'm in control of myself. There's a quote worth remembering. Don't raise your voice, improve your argument. And sometimes improving your argument means not making one at all, especially when the conversation isn't about truth, but about ego. You've seen this before. Two people arguing, not to understand, but to win, to be louder, sharper, more visible. But what if the real win is not engaging at all? There's a certain calm that comes from knowing who you are, from not needing to prove it at every turn. And that calm can be intimidating. Silence makes people uncomfortable because it forces them to sit with themselves. And if they were trying to provoke you, your stillness disarms them. It takes away the one thing they were hoping to control, your reaction. Philosophers and spiritual traditions across cultures have always understood this. There's wisdom in knowing when not to act, in practicing restraint, in recognizing that not every thought needs to be voiced. Silence is powerful because it rises above the need to dominate. It speaks a language that only the secure truly understand. Now, this doesn't mean staying silent in the face of injustice or suppressing your truth. That's not strength, that's fear in disguise. What it means is choosing your voice the way a master chooses their tools, intentionally and purposefully. Not every situation deserves a reply. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every invitation to chaos needs your RSVP. When you speak from a place of calm rather than impulse, your words carry weight. People feel the difference. There's gravity in restraint. The person who doesn't feel the need to speak every time they're provoked is the one people pay attention to when they finally do speak. Because when they speak, it matters. Silence also creates space. It acts as a filter. When you resist the urge to respond instantly, you give your thoughts time to settle. You gain clarity. You begin to see what's actually being said, not just what your emotions are telling you is being said. That moment of stillness becomes your advantage. It's where you regain your footing, your perspective, your authority. In conflict, silence is often your strongest move, not as a weapon, but as a pause, a reset. It can de-escalate tension, redirect a conversation, or simply protect your peace. And sometimes silence is the boundary itself, the quiet refusal to participate in dysfunction. You don't need to announce that you're done. You just stop responding. That alone sends a message. And yes, silence requires confidence. It requires patience. It requires the inner stability to be misunderstood, misjudged, even mischaracterized, and still choose not to react. That's not easy. But the people who master this, who learn to stay centered even when everything around them feels chaotic, they're the ones who ultimately lead. You don't have to show up to every argument you're invited to. You don't have to correct every false narrative. You don't have to react just because someone else wants a reaction. Your peace is not public property. When you truly understand that, you stop performing and start leading. Silence is not retreat. It is presence. It's the conscious decision to protect your energy, to own your power, to respond with intention instead of noise. So the next time someone comes at you sideways or life throws chaos your way, try this. Say nothing for a moment. Sit with the discomfort. Breathe. Observe. Let the need to prove something fade. Then, if you choose to speak, let it come from a place that's calm, clear, and grounded. And if you choose not to speak at all, that's a choice too, a powerful one. Letting go of the need to explain is a hard-earned discipline because your instincts will push you toward defense and justification. But silence teaches you to sit with that discomfort, to let your actions speak over time, to trust that truth doesn't need constant promotion. It simply needs consistency. In many ways, silence becomes the language of those who have outgrown the need for performance. When you know who you are, when you've focused inward and built something real, you don't feel the need to prove it constantly. Your energy becomes your filter, your presence becomes your response, and your silence becomes your strength. So the next time you feel that urge to respond, to defend, to explain, pause and ask yourself, is this coming from strength or from insecurity? Am I trying to communicate or am I just trying to be heard? And if it's the second, then maybe silence is the better choice. Because the loudest person in the room is rarely the most grounded, and the strongest person doesn't always raise their voice. Sometimes they simply raise their standards and let their silence do the rest. We live in a culture obsessed with announcing everything. Everyone is broadcasting what they're about to do, what they're working on, what they might do next. There's this constant urge to make sure everyone knows you're growing, planning, improving. But here's the truth. When your energy shifts from actually doing the work to constantly talking about it, you've already drifted off course. Real progress doesn't need a spotlight. It creates its own. And when you're truly focused, quiet, intentional, and grounded, the results become impossible to ignore. You don't need to convince anyone. You let your progress speak for you. You simply keep going. That's the real difference between movement and true momentum. There's a subtle trap hidden in the urge to narrate every single step. Psychologically, it creates a premature sense of achievement. You talk about what you plan to do, and your brain receives a small dopamine hit as if you've already accomplished it. And so, ironically, the more you speak about your goals, the less urgency you may feel to actually reach them. Silence, on the other hand, keeps you close to the work itself. It strips away the illusion and leaves you face to face with reality. Let your progress speak. That phrase isn't just about appearances. It's about integrity. It means aligning your actions with your values so consistently that you don't have to explain who you are. People can sense it. They may not know exactly what you're doing, but they will notice that something about you has changed. Your energy becomes sharper.